Did you know that our generation overly abuses the most easily accessible legal substances that can have a drastic effect on nutritional value? Good nutritional values are extremely important when it comes to one's health. Good nutritional value can help prevent some diseases such as heart disease, diabetes, strokes, and some cancers. Healthy nutritional values can increase energy naturally without the need of stimulants such as caffeine and nicotine. Using such stimulants in greater quantities than recommended can increase and have false effects on the body and cause a greater risk for certain diseases. Alcohol, a depressant, increases the production of dopamine and serotonin, which reinforces the reward pathway in the limbic system, promoting that feel-good feeling. Our group will further speak about caffeine intake, nicotine use, and alcohol use, and the effect it has on nutritional health.
Okay, one turn. Caffeine is an addictive stimulant. It's also a plant alkaloid that increases the excitability of the, let's just say adrenaline system. Basically, it gets you hype. It makes you want to move. Depending, some people, it just wakes them up. People that are already woke up, they just like to move extra. So from this article, we can conclude that caffeine increases the energy availability. It also increases the daily energy expenditure. It decreases It decreases fatigue. It also decreases the sense of effort associated with physical activity. So basically, off of caffeine, you're less sluggish. You can basically just be able to handle more, be able to do more, et cetera, et cetera. It increases alertness, wakefulness, and feelings of energy. I already elaborated on those points. It decreases mental fatigue. It also quickens your reactions. Basically, everything I've been saying so far. Also, in the article, it has been shown that most, teenagers consume high levels of caffeine. A group of young male adults consume 150 milligrams of caffeine, which enhance cognitive performance, and that lasted 10 hours. It also, what else? The U.S. Food and Drug Administration stated that the available evidence shows that chronic use of caffeine has no effect on blood pressure that persists beyond 2 weeks. Another 21Y investigation of at first moderately aged people, the cardiovascular risk factors, aging, and dementia, observed that contrasted in subjects regularly devouring the 300 milligrams of caffeine every day. Those subjects regularly burned through 400 to 650 milligrams day by day, showed an essentially lower occurrence of clinical dementia, basically stating that those that drank more caffeine as they aged, they would show lesser and lesser risk factors for dementia, stuff like that.
The positive and negative health effects of alcohol and the public health implications. Alcohol consumption tends to have a more negative effect than positive. There has been more research done over the effects of alcohol over the last 30 years. In this study, research emphasizes the increasing risk of alcohol intake. Alcohol affects different parts of your body, beginning with the intense impacts on the cerebrum. A low blood alcohol intake up to 0.1% will cause elation. A higher 0.25 to 0.30% will create drowsiness and turmoil, and more than that will cause unconsciousness and death. A delayed over-the-top liquor admission expands the danger of later creating dementia. Numerous patients with such a high liquor admission additionally have a poor nourishing status, which in certain occasions may prompt dementia too. Thus, alcohol abuse can be one more contributing variable, as portions of the brain might be harmed by nutrient lacks. However, there is a slight positive side. Both case control and cohort studies have reliably shown that light alcohol consumers are at a lower risk of cardiovascular disease and related death than non-consumers. Additionally, moderate liquor admission might be successful in decreasing levels of stress. Emotional shock or outrage trigger the thoughtful sensory system, delivering epinephrine or norepinephrine, prompting either an ascent in pulse or at the very last, cardiovascular arrhythmia and abrupt death. A more recent report on the connection between the potential altering impact of weight on the relationship among liquor and stroke has proposed that moderate liquor consumption is related with lower hazard of ischemic stroke among exceptionally focused on members. The finding of this new study demonstrates that pressure could likewise be a significant variable engaged with the relationship among liquor and coronary illness.
Okay, and for our third article, I found an article on the nicotine effects and alertness on spatial attention in non-smokers. And I mean, the more overall, nicotine has really no nutritional value for you. And just for like, I guess, a little bit of background, nicotine is extracted from the leaves of a tobacco plant, acts mainly as an agonist at nicotinic cholinergic receptors, both at autonomic ganglia and in the central nervous system. The central nervous system basically reinforces the smoking behavior, while eventually being dependent on it is maintained by the avoidance of the negative withdrawal symptoms. The central nicotinic cholinergic receptors are for the most part presynaptic and equipped for stimulating the release of neurotransmitters, including acetylcholine, dopamine, and norepinephrine. Presynaptic receptors in the mesolimbic DNA framework helps the release of DA and probable intercede the major inspirational and supporting impacts of nicotine. However, nicotinic cholinergic receptors are also found in the brain, or also found in multiple brain regions, which are believed to carry out specific cognitive functions. And in this article, I found a study mainly that focuses on, once again, the alertness and spatial attention in non-smokers from the Oregon Health Sciences University, Reed College, and the University of Portland. They conducted a research involving 17 people ranging between the ages of 20 to 33 years old, which all at the time were non-smokers. There was a controlled group and an experimental group. Now in this study, the control group and the experimental group kind of varied. Like one day you could be in the controlled group, the next day you'd be in the experimental group. But the experimental group were given 7 to 14 milligrams of Nicoderm patches, while the controlled group only received non-nicotine patches that resembled a nicotine patch. And after 90 minutes of receiving the patch, each individual was given a 25-minute attention task. The subjects were asked to respond quickly to the task given on a screen. And out of those 17 subjects, 5 of them were unfortunately counted out because they did feel too sick from the nicotine patches, but I don't think it had too much of an early enough effect to have different results. There was as displayed beforehand in the article, which I didn't quite mention, but a critical impact of legitimacy with the mean of the middle reaction times to substantial targets reliably quicker than the non-partisan targets, which were quicker than the reaction time to invalid targets, which were quicker than reaction time to uncued targets. So basically the study just proved that nicotine does affect your alertness and spatial attention, and nicotine really serves no value in nutrition at all, but it is still also affects you very much so nutritionally, but doesn't serve a good purpose, I guess.
All right, to sum it all up, your health is simply affected by what you put into your body. It can affect you physically, mentally, and emotionally, all of which can be triggered by the consumption of caffeine, alcohol, and nicotine. There's been various studies and research done over all three of these things and how they affect your body in all sorts of different ways. We specified more on each of our different topics we chose. The research and studies that were completed brought evidence to prove the different effects they all can have. In our first article, we were shown results of caffeine, which had a more positive result than negative one. It is possible to have too much. However, there are not many negative effects when it comes to consuming caffeine. Only when consuming too much too frequently is when negative effects pose a threat. In our second article, we were given both results on the positive and negative effects of alcohol. There are more negative effects from the intake of alcohol, especially when consuming large amounts. Taking in large amounts can cause damage to your kidneys, as well as issues with overall health. However, it has been shown that moderate drinking can help to prevent cardiovascular disease. So there is a little bit of good, but only with moderation in the intake of alcohol. And then with our last article, we were shown the effects of nicotine and our attention span. Although it only proved that it can, in fact, slow down your ability to stay alert and react quicker. The study that we examined showed these effects with a controlled and experimental group. It is important to know what you're putting in your body, as well as how it will affect you and the amount that you are consuming. There can be benefits, but none of these will help you from a solely nutritional standpoint. These can all affect our nutritional health, so it is important that we stay more aware with what is put into our bodies, not only for our physical well-being, but for just as importantly, our mental capabilities. Thank you all for watching and listening to us all speak.